I'm just getting into character. What? Ah, I didn't see you there. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Well, you should have told me. Welcome back to the Spoonie Stitcher channel. Hello! Welcome back to the Spoonie Stitcher channel. I'm Shannon the Spoonie Stitcher. You're inside the stitchery and I'm so happy you're here today. You're back for another installation on my Broadway Bears series. And if you didn't know, I absolutely love Broadway, and what better way for a crochet lover to mix Broadway than to crochet an iconic costume from a Broadway show. If you haven't guessed yet from the intro, the thumbnail, or anything else I have done all of May, obviously we're doing The Little Mermaid. What was that? You didn't know that The Little Mermaid was a Broadway show? Yeah, not a lot of people do. It didn't exactly do well. But I love it anyway, and I'm going to explain just how. Okay, there really won't be spoilers, but if you'd like me to put up a spoiler alert, here you go. But really, they've released most of the spoilers in the actual film, so everything I'm going to talk about has probably been a news article at some point. Because the live-action Little Mermaid came out this May, I thought that Mermaid would be an appropriate thing to do on my channel. Not only that, but I already really wanted to do the Little Mermaid Broadway show as one of the Broadway Bears. The live-action movie and the 1989 Disney cartoon are also very different and similar to the Broadway show in some way. A lot of the look of the Broadway show is very cartoony, and also not. And a lot of the songs you will recognize, as well as some new songs. So at the end of this video, I will give you a brief history on The Little Mermaid, but if you're not interested in any of that, you can skip it. It is kind of interesting though, because the Little Mermaid Broadway show unfortunately had some very rough seas. How many nautical puns can I slip into this video? Okay. Shut up, Shannon, and show us the mermaid, right? How do you know I made a mermaid? So the costume designer of the Broadway show was Tatiana Naganova, and oh my goodness, so many costumes for me to choose from because they're all stunning. Go look at all the costumes this woman has designed. Incredible. I am really shocked that Tatiana Naganova didn't get a nomination for her costumes, because they're incredible. I mean, that's so clever. How did she come up with that? But I kind of wanted to pick the star. Yeah, I made a mermaid. You ready? This is Beariel. Yes, it's a pun. So, first thing you'll notice about her is she looks a little bit different than what you pictured, doesn't she? First of all, she's wearing what looks like a grass skirt, but blue. And then, what's this funny belt? And her hair looks different, and all of your questions will be answered in just a minute. So, first of all, this is the Broadway costume. It doesn't look like the movie or the new movie or anything like that. Tatiana's design was that actors had to look like they were swimming on stage. And that was a complicated thing all in itself. So first of all, how do you make them swim? you give them shoes with wheels on them. So there was a popular shoe called a Heeley in about the early 2000s. And, 12-year-olds wore them and stuff like that. And they were literally shoes with wheels in the heel. The costume designer saw that and thought, that could make you look like you're gliding across water. So, I couldn't add a wheel, but these are supposed to give the illusion of her special shoes that have the wheels on them so she can glide across the stage and look like she's swimming. Oh, you noticed something, didn't you? We'll get to that in just a second. So, not all the actors could wear Heelys because not all of them were, 12-year-old children. So they had specially designed dancing shoes with a wheel installed in them. I will put a picture somewhere here. The Flounders, however, were young boys, and they actually had Heelys made for them with part of their costume attached. Again, I will show you here. All right, so the other thing you probably noticed is she has two tails. Now, this is water. So you're not supposed to be able to see the actor's feet or legs. That's why also what gave her pants. Her original costume actually has these like leggings underneath her big skirt and everything. So anyway, the skirt is supposed to represent water. So where's the tail? There's the tail. So the costumes were designed in such a way that you could install the tail to the back so that when they were lying down or turned a certain way, or if the stage water came up high enough, you could see that it was just a tail that was supposed to be there and everything else was supposed to be water. As you can see, I tried to put her together like the Broadway show costume. Now, that also goes for her tail. So her tail is not attached to her. So I tried to attach it the way that you saw the tail silhouettes that were attached to the dancers' hips and stuff. So what I did was I made the tail, and I didn't actually stuff it. This is just a skein of yarn that's sitting in here. I didn't really feel like stuffing it. So I attached it to her waist with a ribbon, and I hid it underneath her belt so that you couldn't really see it. So I'll show you. So this ribbon right here, and then it's attached in the front under her belt. So if you just pull this, her tail comes off. And then there is a skein of yarn just stuffed in there. And I attached it, so you see I attached the sides like this, and then you just tie it, hide it under her waist, and throw the belt on top of it, and it's hidden. And it doesn't hurt her costume at all. She still looks like a mermaid. So yeah, I was pretty proud of myself for doing it that way. And because I wanted to do the costume justice, because I think that Tatiana is such an incredible designer. I really wanted to do her costume justice as much as I could. I am now going to insert a brief little summary of how I made my Beariel. Alright, so obviously every good design starts with, in my case, a little sketch. And as you can see here, I sketched out my basic Broadway bear, but then I had to transform it into Ariel. And not just any Ariel, I had to make it look like the stage version. Okay, so as you can see, the stage version of Ariel's costume is quite different from any movie version or the cartoon itself. So as you can see, her tail and her skirt are not the same thing. So we have to look at structure and have to look at exactly how I would put this thing together. I had to look at several behind the scenes photos of the dancers dancing with how they practiced with these giant tails on to get the proportions and connections of each piece just right. All right, back to our drawing. You can see that there is a skirt with her legs underneath, and then there's a separate tail, just like the Broadway costume. And then you can see little shoes that I drew out that are supposed to be like her little rollerblades, because in the Broadway show, they skate around on stage to look like they're floating. Okay, so here is the basic body, almost complete. Her eyes are inset, her mouth is attached. Obviously her nose is not there yet, but you can see the pants that I designed as part of the bear. I thought that would make it a whole lot easier than actually dressing her. But as you can see, her face is not quite to be desired. Don't worry, in a moment it will look a lot better. And there we go. See, once you add the little nose, they no longer look like a duck. Isn't that great? All right, so here we have her face and her muzzle and her eyes. And that's about it at the moment. There we go. See, she looks a whole lot better now. So you can get a better look at how I did her pants. I did my favorite trick, which is the almost seamless color change, which I have a video for on my channel. I will link it down below. But we're getting there. So obviously the next thing I need to add is her skirt. Okay, here is the skirt on the bear, and oh, look, she's got a little buddy. There's Flounder. All right, so a better look at the skirt. You can see that I've got her belt from the Broadway show, and her skirt is made in a certain way because it is supposed to represent water. It has nothing to do with her tail. It's supposed to look like she's floating so that when the tail is attached, it's not supposed to show her legs or anything. It's not supposed to look like part of the tail, basically. So that's what I tried to go for. I made a bunch of chains here and I attached them underneath the belt. The belt is on top to 1, hide the chains, and 2, will help when we attach the tail mechanism. Okay, so obviously next is the top. Now the top was tricky. In fact, I made several versions, which I will show you here. And I had my friends actually vote on which one they thought looked closest to the design. So once I decided on design, then it was which direction looks more like a shell, this way or the other. And again, I asked a couple of my crochet design friends for help. And here you can see the top picture is the stage version's costume versus what I was deciding on. And then I was trying to decide how to attach the shells, which direction I wanted them to go. Did I want them to have space in between? It was a lot of decisions because I didn't want to make, as you can see, she's got this sheer piece underneath her shells and this blue strap, both of which I didn't want as part of my design. I just wasn't sure I could make the sheer piece. I couldn't do it justice. And then the blue strap I felt was a little jarring to my design, so I didn't add that. Okay, so here is the beginning of her tail. So this is the base of her tail, and I was just trying to position it in this picture. And look, you can see all the yarns I'm using. So I was trying to figure out how to do it and how not to make it too long, because the longer I make it, even though her Broadway tail is quite impressive, yeah, for a bear, you can't really make it that long because it'll be too heavy and it won't stay up properly. Now on to the hair. This is a bit of a sad picture, but I thought I would include it because it is important. This is my yarn from Premier. This is the Premier Basics chenille. If I get that wrong, I will put the right words up on the screen. But as you can see, these black spots are all over my yarn. That is stain. My yarn came stained, but it was so far into the ball by the time I had made all the hair pieces that I couldn't frog it. There was no way. I got too far and the hair is one piece, which I regret not taking a picture of, but I will try and include a quick sketch in here so that you can see how it's all put together. But anyway, yeah, buyer beware. The inside of my ball is stained with all these black marks all over it, and I tried everything to get it out. All right, so this is the hair we're going for. As you can see, these beautiful long curls. Sadly, this is the best picture of her hair I could find, even though it's an aftershot picture with Norm Lewis, man, I love him, as King Trident, and Sierra Bogues as our beautiful Ariel the mermaid, with her gorgeous locks flowing from her head. She's got this beautiful wave in the top of her hair. So that's what I was trying to create. But obviously I couldn't do it exactly that way because yarn does not cooperate the same way as a wig. And here is what I came up with. So as you can see, they have the long little curls at the end, but it's still straight enough that, you know, the yarn would cooperate with me. And I tried to do the pullback, which she has on part of her hair. I could not create the wave in the front, but her hair is a bit more pulled back like a medieval princess than it is with the big Ariel wave like in the movie. And here is the front of her. Doesn't she look spectacular? Yes. So as you can see, the hair is pulled to the sides. Unfortunately, you can see a few of the black marks. Yeah, sorry about that. That's just the yarn. Yay. So I tried to get a really good picture of it. I guess my room is a bit distracting, but I did try to get a good picture of what she looks like head on, and then you will see the final version of what she looks like all together. Okay, so now you understand basically how I put her together. So she is made in mostly burnout blanket yarn, and then you already know about the Premier chenille issue. And this is some stuff I found at Michael's, just little ribbons and strings to make it look kind of glisten like water, and some worsted weight yarn. Oh, 3 strands of worsted weight yarn make up her base of her tail, and then the Bernat Sparkle makes up her actual tail fin. Yeah, so that's it. I believe her eyes are 22 or 24 millimeter safety eyes. So she's made in a 7 millimeter hook, mostly. Her hair is an 8 millimeter. Her skirt is a 6 millimeter, and her tail is a 6 millimeter. I wrote all of this down. But this is Beariel, and I really like the way she came out. But I couldn't just leave Beariel friendless, obviously. So I cheated a little bit, and I decided to give her a little friend from the 1989 movie. And who else could I possibly give her than Flounder? He is the perfect size for her. See, this is her hand, this is him. And he is my design. I might have showed him on another video because I did kind of Disney bound as him for the theater to go see the live action Little Mermaid. But in case you haven't seen him, this is my Flounder design. And isn't he cute? So that is Beariel and Flounder, and I hope you like them. So let's talk for a minute why this musical is such a big deal to me. Alan Menken wrote a score for The Little Mermaid. All the music, so all the background music you hear in the film, all of the little, like, almost theme songs for each character, he wrote all of that. If you know the Broadway show, you might recognize a few things because he reused some of the theme songs for the characters and gave them a song out of it. One of my favorite examples is Flotsam and Jetsam. They have a song that they sing to Ariel in the show called Sweet Child. Some of the notes in Sweet Child are directly from Flotsam and Jetsam's like little theme song whenever they're on screen in the Disney movie. One of my favorite Disney villain songs. And yes, it is a Disney villain song because it is a Disney property, so it counts. Okay? But it's really, really interesting because they have a really creepy push-pull effect. And it creates this eerie sound. And it sounds like slithering. I mean, the eels are snakes of the sea, kind of. So the fact that Alan Menken could write this sound that sounds like creeping across, you know, the ocean floor or whatever is just magic. All right, that's one song. Also, Eric gets a song. Her Voice. Her Voice is the perfect Eric song because it is a song about how much her voice is stuck in his head, which I have to give it to the live action movie when they talk about a mermaid song or a siren song. Although, tiny side note, sirens and mermaids are not the same thing. But during his song, more of her ah notes start to creep into his song, which only goes to prove that it's stuck in his head. And yeah, okay, you kind of get that point from the animated movie, but the fact that this is written in such a beautiful way, first of all, the lyrics of the song are stunning. And Sean Palmer, the first guy to play Prince Eric on Broadway, is incredible. But the way the song is written is just so clever. And then you gotta hand it to Glenn Slater for the lyrics because they're incredible. Two more songs I want to talk about that are not in any movie version, and that is Ursula's first song. Yes, in the Broadway show, Ursula, played by Sherry Renee Scott, we love her. She plays Ursula, who, tiny spoiler alert, is Triton's half-sister in the Broadway show, which was Disney's original idea in the 1989 movie, and they scrapped it. But the 2023 live action picked that back up. So, in the Broadway version, she is his half-sister. She was banished. And she sings about what happened. So, not only do we get a super fun song, I Want the Good Times Back. Very fun song. Very catchy. But also, it tells you what happened. Because isn't that always our question? Like, she was banished, but why? Because she used some magic? And it also slips in there her plan and why she wants to go after Triton and his daughter. And then lastly, the quartet, If Only. 4 characters singing about what they want more than anything. Ariel is singing. Yes, Ariel does sing in the Broadway show, but just try and picture it as, you know, it's in her head because she can't sing. She doesn't have a voice. But she is singing about the fact that if only I could tell you what I'm trying to reveal. This is some of the lyrics. Sebastian is brokenhearted for how he sees Ariel and how she's running out of time. And he said, I'd give up my life to make this happen. King Triton is singing to his daughter from the sea that, where did she go? Where is she? I can't lose her. I want her back more than anything else. And then Eric is singing, I want this voice, this mysterious woman with this voice, but if I choose that voice, I lose her, Ariel. So you could hear his decision and stuff, but it is so beautifully, musically put together, and the lyrics are so perfect. It is one of my favorite Broadway harmony numbers ever. I know that's a big statement, because I'm a big Broadway fan, but ever. It is so beautiful. Okay, so those are some of the new numbers. There are actually several. Just a great show. They did have to make a few changes, as you can probably imagine. You can't exactly stab a giant squid on a stage. That's a little difficult to convey, the big ocean and all that kind of stuff. So they changed it to Ursula has a magic shell that if it cracks or breaks, she'll die. Also, there is no Vanessa. None. Which hurts a little bit because don't we all love Vanessa? But it also makes Eric's arc stronger, because he hears the voice and he goes, well, tell her she's too late. I've already chosen my bride. And that's Ariel. Yes, I know in the movies he's tricked, but just that moment in the Broadway show is a really great line. You know, tell her she's too late, I've already chosen my bride. And he's hearing the tune, so points for Eric. Beyond anything else, this Broadway show is colorful and fun, and almost every song is super catchy, and it was just a really fun show. So what happened? This show had lots of things going for them. The Disney film was a hit. You know, Alan Menken's back for the music. Glenn Slater is a great lyricist. Thomas Schumacher, who's the production guy for all of this, and he's from Disney. I mean, you have all of these positive things going for you. So why didn't it do well? In 2006, auditions were held for the Little Mermaid Broadway show. Sierra Bogues, a Broadway newcomer, got the role as Ariel. Her voice and her audition, plus her look, just made everybody say she has to be Ariel. So this would be her Broadway debut. Sean Palmer had several Broadway credits, but he'd never been in a starring role in Broadway, and he would be Prince Eric. This would be his very first starring Broadway role. For the role of Ursula, they wanted to make a change. They wanted to make her a bit sexier and a little bit younger than she was in the cartoon. Strangely enough, it worked really well, and they got Broadway veteran Sherry Renee Scott to play her. She had already wowed them in her performance of Amneris in the Disney's Aida. Her voice and her acting just blows it out of the water. She's one of my favorite Ursulas, just saying. For the role of the King of the Sea, Norm Lewis. If you're not a close personal friend of mine, you don't know how much I love Norm Lewis, but now you do. I love Norm Lewis. He is one of my favorite phantoms they've ever had. He plays King Triton, and his voice, both speaking and singing, are just, he sounds like a commander of the sea. Just stunning. Tyler Maynard and Derek Baskin became Flotsam and Jetsam, with the latter going in for the role of Sebastian against Titus Burgess. Titus ultimately won the role, which got him a huge boost in his career. And of course he went on to do things like The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt and Chicago and stuff like that. But Derek Baskin didn't get the role he wanted, and they said, wait, we still want you. If you want the role, we have a role for you as Jetsam. And so he said, okay, I guess. And he ultimately had a really great time playing that role.
Hello, voiceover Shannon here. So I left out two very important cast members of this original cast. Grimsby is played by Jonathan Freeman, whom you might know as the voice of Jafar from all the Aladdin movies, and, fun fact, went on to play Jafar in the Aladdin Broadway show as well. Also, Heidi Blickenstaff, a wonderful actress, plays Carlotta. She went on to play Nick Bottom's wife in the funny comedy musical Something Rotten. These two are absolutely phenomenal actors, and I could not leave them out of this video.
July 26, 2007, The Little Mermaid had their first public show in Denver, Colorado, which was awesome because Sierra is from Denver, and so the show sold out their first performance because everybody wanted to see the little hometown star make her big debut. On September 9th, 2007, their Denver run ended and they were preparing to go to Broadway. So everything was doing fine, they were doing well, people loved it, great. Now they're on their way to Broadway. However, November 10th, 2007, the stagehand strike. This would be the Little Mermaid's first bad break, with many more to come. It shut down most of Broadway. In fact, it lasted for 19 days. So the Little Mermaid's opening, despite all the posters and all the advertising they had done, was postponed. January 10th, 2008, The Little Mermaid finally opens on Broadway. And attending that very first opening night performance were some great Disney alums, including Pat Carroll, the original voice of Ursula, and Jodie Benson, the original voice of Ariel from the 1989 film. How special is that? However, the critics ripped them to shreds. The Little Mermaid's second bad break. There was a few very vocal, positive critics, and they were enough to change the public's mind. Tickets were selling like crazy for a while, until May 10th, 2008. Moments before a performance of The Little Mermaid, one of the performers, Adrian Bailey, was on the ship set piece and fell through a trap door 30 feet to the ground. He broke multiple bones in his body. It was really bad. Bailey filed a lawsuit against Disney for basically unsafe conditions, and the lawsuit was never made public on what the result was, but Adrian Bailey has not worked since on the stage. This was The Little Mermaid's third bad break. A few days later, the Tony nominations came out, and The Little Mermaid was only nominated for 2. They won neither. And 2 years after opening on Broadway, they had to close their doors. But it is so beloved that the last 16 shows of The Little Mermaid were completely sold out. So you may think that's the end of The Little Mermaid on Broadway, but it wasn't. It went overseas to the Netherlands, and they did really well. And in 2012, it made the top 10 list for musicals performed in high school. The cast also went on to do amazing things. Like I said before, Titus Burgess went on to do Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Sierra Bogas went on to do several Broadway shows with starring roles. Derek Baskin went on to be in Ain't Too Proud, and he got a Tony nomination. And one of my favorite things is that apparently most of the cast formed incredibly close bond and still see each other once in a while. So that's the brief history of The Little Mermaid on Broadway. And if you didn't know about this Broadway show, I hope you do now. And I hope that you go and at least try and listen to the music. Beariel and I want to say thank you so much for joining us today, taking a little splash down the history and creation of The Little Mermaid on Broadway. Please let me know if you like Beariel. I'm really proud of her. I think she turned out so cute. I love her little eyelashes, and I'm really proud of how she turned out. Please let me know in the comments what you think of her, first of all. Had you ever heard of The Little Mermaid Broadway show? I'm very curious about that. And also, give me ideas, guys. Give me Broadway shows. You never know, they might turn into a Broadway Bear. We hope that this video made you smile and maybe think about listening to the soundtrack. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my little Yarn Zebra family. I would love to have you over here. And if you're not into Broadway, that's fine. There's lots of videos to choose from over here. Please like, share, and subscribe to the Yarn Zebra family. Please turn on the notifications so you know every time I post a new video. I hope you have a magically mermaid day, and remember, life happens, yarn helps, and spoonies can stitch it up too.